Hi. I am Ethan Carter, and you don't know my story yet. No one does. My life, my secrets, my choices, they've all been locked away in a book that almost no one has found. A story buried on Amazon, waiting for the world to notice it. But I got tired of waiting. So today, I am bringing it here. To you. To this screen. This is the first time anyone will hear my voice, the first time the world will step into the truth I've been carrying alone. This is the beginning of Twins of Fate, the YouTube series. I am Ethan Carter. No one has seen my story. Not really. Not the choices, the secrets, the moments that shaped me before I even knew who I was. Until now. I had just returned from university. Full of hope. Full of energy. Full of a reckless kind of optimism only someone 24 could have. I imagined my life like a blank canvas. Late nights. Adventures. Travel. Friends. Freedom. Maybe even love. But the moment my grandfather called me into his study, all of that disappeared. The study was as I remembered, walls lined with leather, bound books reaching the ceiling. Each spine a reminder of the weight of history. The smell of old paper and polished wood lingered in the air, but beneath it, something heavier, the scent of power, expectation, and control. The desk, massive and imposing, dominated the room. Its polished surface reflected the dim light, like it was daring me to sit, to speak, to challenge. And then he appeared. My grandfather. A man whose gaze could cut through you and leave nothing but raw truth behind. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He simply slid a thick envelope across the desk. When it landed, I felt the weight in my chest, the way a storm feels before it breaks. Inside was his will. And inside the will, a clause that would redefine my life. To inherit the Carter Empire, I must have a child. Not someday. Not when I was ready. Now. At 24, I hadn't even considered marriage. I hadn't considered fatherhood. I hadn't even imagined a life shackled by the weight of expectation. I wanted freedom. I wanted choices. I wanted a life where my decisions were mine, not dictated by centuries of legacy. But freedom doesn't exist for people like me. I stared at the words for what felt like hours. The room seemed to shrink. The air thickened. My pulse raced, each heartbeat pounding like a warning. I wanted to scream. To tear the envelope apart. To throw the desk out the window. But I didn't. Because the Carter name is heavier than anger. Because my blood runs with obedience, loyalty, and survival. And deep down, I knew I couldn't walk away. I paced the study. I ran scenario after scenario in my mind. Marriage. Impossible. A relationship? Dangerous. Refusing the will. Unthinkable. And then, it hit me. Surrogacy. It was perfect. Practical. Controlled. Safe. A way to satisfy the will without sacrificing my freedom. I threw myself into research like a man possessed. Every law. Every medical procedure. Every story of success and failure. I memorized contracts, clinic protocols, legal loopholes. Every tiny detail mattered. Weeks passed. I scheduled endless meetings. Lawyers, doctors, medical consultants. I scrutinized hundreds of surrogate profiles like a businessman evaluating assets. Each choice weighed heavily, each decision could topple my future. Then I met her. She wasn't just a file. She wasn't just a candidate. She was presence, strength, calm, life. Even in that first meeting, I felt something I hadn't prepared for. Uncertainty. Something unpredictable. I reminded myself, this is a contract. Nothing more. It isn't about love. It isn't about connection. It isn't even about family. It's about obligation. Legacy. Survival. I signed the papers. The deal was done. The Carter Empire was safe. And I felt empty. Hollow. Exposed. The next weeks were a blur. Emails. Calls. Medical tests. Legal forms. Unexpected complications. Every single step reminded me that life could not be fully controlled. Slowly, cracks appeared in my perfect plan. Unanticipated delays. Clinic errors. Questions I hadn't asked. Situations I hadn't prepared for. And emotions I had buried, creeping in, uninvited. The woman carrying my child began to feel like more than a contract. A person. A presence in my carefully controlled life. And despite my best efforts to suppress it, I began to realize something terrifying. I was not in complete control. I remembered my childhood, growing up under the shadow of my grandfather, the weight of the family name pressing down, the lessons of obedience and perfection drilled into me. I had always thought I was prepared. I had always thought I understood life. I was wrong. Because this wasn't just a contract. It wasn't just about a child. It was about me. About who I was and who I could become. Because the twins, the future, the legacy I thought I was protecting, they were already shaping me in ways I could never anticipate. And that's when I understood the truth. The contract was only the beginning. The real story, the story of fate, of choices, of love and betrayal, of power and loss, had just begun.